Hello and welcome. Today our guest is Alexander Grace from Red Pill Interviews. Alexander, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Now, recently in our discussions, we've been talking about the sexual marketplace. We've talked about how men desire sex and women desire commitment and how they trade with each other. And you've also explained how men can use this information to their advantage, to play to their strengths and to find a specific demographic of women that they appeal to.
That's right. And for anyone who missed those discussions, we can put a link in the description box below. But today, I want to talk about how competition works in the sexual marketplace. Men competing against men, and women competing against women.
So, what does competition in the sexual marketplace look like?
Well, it happens in two ways, and the first way is quite obvious. It's just trying to improve your value so that you're the most desirable product on the market. So if you know that women like wealth, status, and a muscly body, then you're going to try and be the richest guy with the most impressive job, and the guy who's in the most in shape. And that's the most obvious way you can beat the competition, by just outperforming all the other men.
And what does it look like for women?
Well, that's women competing with other women over who's got the prettiest face, who's got the most fashionable clothes, who's got the best body. You know that men are attracted to appearance, so you try and be the most beautiful girl on the market.
But men aren't just interested in looks, and women want more than a guy who's just got high status and a muscly body.
Oh, of course. I'm talking in very general terms, just to demonstrate a point. We already talked in our last interview about how everyone likes very specific things, and that how focusing on your strengths will help you appeal to a certain demographic.
Okay, so this is how people compete in the sexual marketplace, by trying to have the highest quality product on the market.
Yes, this is the most straightforward method, but it takes a lot of hard work. You know how much time, effort, and discipline it takes for a man to reach the top of his chosen field.
Many years, and for most men, even putting in all that effort doesn't guarantee results.
That's right, and it's even harder for women, because there's only so many beauty products you can try, so many clothes that you can buy, so many yoga classes you can attend to improve your body. Everyone wants to be beautiful, but the harsh truth is that when it comes to determining whether you're attractive or not, the most important factor is your genetics, and it's just not something you have any control over.
Plus, it's a race against time, because every year you get older and you lose more of that youthful appearance that men find so appealing.
Exactly, and that brings us to the second way that people compete with each other in the sexual marketplace, and that's by undercutting their competitors. It's simple, it's quick, it's effortless, and it's very effective in achieving short-term results.
I'm not sure I'm following you. What do you mean by undercutting your competitors?
We've spoken before about how men and women set their price. Women are the gatekeepers of sex, and so if a man wants to have sex with her, she sets her price. Essentially, she says, if you want me to have sex with you, then you need to have this higher status and give me this level of commitment.
Right, and men are the gatekeepers of relationships. So before committing to a woman, they say that you have to be this attractive and this sexually available.
Right, but see what happens when someone can't attract any interest. We'll use a woman as an example. She may say that she's not going to sleep with anyone unless he's achieved a certain level of status. But if she's not attracting any interest, then it's only a matter of time before she starts dropping her standards.
So if she would only sleep with a CEO before, now she would sleep with a manager.
That's the general idea, yes.
But this is just her responding to market forces, adjusting her price according to the laws of supply and demand. I'm not sure what this has to do with competing against other women.
Here's how it all works. Think of all of the women on the earth as belonging to a union, or better yet, a cartel. Now, collectively, it's in their best interest to keep the value of sex high. That way they all benefit.
So you're saying that women everywhere are involved in some kind of price-fixing agreement to keep the value of sex high so they can trade favorably in the sexual marketplace?
Yes, except that not all women think that way. See, it only takes one individual to break with a price-fixing cartel before the entire arrangement breaks down. So some women discovered that they could receive a lot more male attention if they just lowered their price and started offering sex to men without really expecting any commitment in return.
What would be a real-life example of this?
You can see it as early as high school, when a girl starts sleeping around with lots of boys without even hoping for any kind of commitment.
But any girl who does this is going to very quickly develop herself a reputation. Boys will start to call her a slut.
Actually, the research shows that slut-shaming is just as likely to come from women as it is from men.
But why would women shame other women?
Don't you see? It's because they're in competition with each other. And so, while they try to create a price-fixing cartel so that they keep the value high across the market, they can't stop individuals from undercutting them on price. And so that girl in high school who's sleeping with all the boys, that's really bad news. Because they're all trying to convince the boys that what they have to offer is very valuable and that it's worth making big sacrifices for, worth going to a lot of effort. But if there's some girl out there who's basically giving it away for free, then it undermines their efforts to keep the value of sex really, really high.
It's almost like the girls are in a union, and the one sleeping around is scab labour.
That's a very good analogy. Essentially, she's not playing by the rules. Maybe she knows that she's never going to beat her competitors by being more beautiful or more accomplished, and so she competes with them in another way by undercutting them on price.
I always wondered why there was so much antagonism towards girls who were promiscuous, because it just seemed to me that they were making their own choices, just personal decisions that really didn't impact anyone else. It's none of their business. But what you're saying is that their actions have a direct impact on these other girls, because they're essentially flooding the market with a cheap product and therefore reducing the value of what the other girls are offering.
Exactly. Seen from this perspective, the antagonism that these women face is quite understandable. It's even rational to a certain degree. And I believe that this is the primary reason why women who work in the adult film industry face so much stigma from other women.
How does that work? Because they're not out there having sex with anyone, they're just making pornography.
Yes, but look at how cheaply they're offering up their naked bodies. With just a few clicks of the mouse, any man has access to thousands of images of naked women online. So, while it used to be that seeing a naked woman was a real privilege, something you had to work and sacrifice for, now the market is completely flooded, and so letting a man see you naked is not as valuable a commodity as it used to be.
So you're saying that the real reason that women hate it when their boyfriends are watching pornography is because they're in competition with those women. And because those women don't ask for anything in return for taking off their clothes, they're actually reducing the value of what the girlfriend, has to offer.
That's right. Those women are her competition, and she's being constantly undercut. And the net result of this is that women in today's sexual marketplace are feeling a constant pressure to lower their price just to stay competitive. Now, here's a good example of this. Back when I was in high school, no one would have possession of a naked photo of a girl. It just didn't happen. It wasn't very common. But nowadays, sexting and sending nude photos is quite common, at least if the media reports that I read are to be believed.
And you believe that that's a direct consequence of women lowering their prices just to try and stay competitive with other women?
Definitely. Once the union has been busted, everyone rushes to meet the market and beat the competition.
But if that was truly the state of things, then wouldn't we be living in a man's paradise? If all women were trying to beat their competitors by lowering their standards and lowering their prices, then men would be completely in charge of the dating game.
But you see, men are also competing, and they're undercutting each other and lowering their prices.
So what does it look like with men?
With men, they give their commitment away too easily. So if there was a price-fixing cartel for men, its role would be to make sure that the value of commitment stays very high, so that no man enters into a relationship without a basic minimum of respect, appreciation, fulfilling sex life. That would be the minimum necessary requirements for a man to enter into a long-term relationship.
And you're saying that lots of men sell themselves cheaper than that, entering into relationships without asking for much in return.
Absolutely. There are so many miserable marriages out there where a man's partner doesn't work, doesn't appreciate or respect him, won't have sex with him, and he's sold his commitment so cheaply that it devalues the commitment that other men are trying to offer. And as a further consequence, it devalues men as a whole in the sexual marketplace.
Is there a male equivalent for slut-shaming that shows antagonism towards these types of men?
Definitely. Anytime you see a bunch of guys who are teasing one of their friends because he's too whipped or because he's spending too much time with his girlfriend, underneath those jokes is a very real frustration that that man's actions are detrimental to them. So they call him a pussy or a cuck or some other word that denotes that he's not a real man.
What's interesting to me about all of this is that I initially thought that it was men and women that were competing with each other in the sexual marketplace. But now I see that the real competition comes from inside one's own gender.
That's exactly right. If men or women ever stopped competing with each other and started cooperating, then that gender would take complete control of the dating market. But individuals aren't like that. They're always looking out for number one. And so as long as they do that, undercutting their competitors, then they're going to continue to devalue the product as a whole for their own personal gain.
Has there ever been an attempt by either gender to do that, to try and end competition and establish cooperation?
That's an interesting question because, in a sense, that's what the MGTOW movement is trying to do.
I didn't know that MGTOW had any larger social goals. I just thought it was a personal choice to go your own way.
Oh, for sure. For a lot of MGTOW men, it doesn't really go much further than just a personal choice that they're making. But what about these guys on YouTube, these MGTOW content creators who are just spreading ideas and educating people? Does it seem like they're in competition with other men?
Not really. Perhaps because they're no longer dating and so they've left their competitive instincts behind and now they're trying to cooperate.
In a sense, that's right. In our first interview, we already covered the economics of dating and how MGTOW men believe that today's women are overpricing themselves in today's sexual marketplace.
I remember you described it as a bubble, that women's sense of their own worth is massively inflated and what they have to offer is not nearly as valuable as they think.
That's right. So when you see these MGTOW guys educating each other, what they're doing is trying to spread the information on exactly how and why women have overpriced themselves in today's dating market. They're trying to encourage other men to make the same decisions they have, to drop out of the market and stop entering into long-term relationships.
So are you saying that this is a purely selfless act, that men just want to warn other men against the dangers of trading in such an unbalanced market, simply because they care about their fellow man?
That could be it, but according to objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, even seemingly selfless acts can still have a grain of selfishness in it, something personal to be gained.
So what reason would MGTOW men have for trying to convert other men to their ideas?
Every man is different, so naturally nothing I say is going to cover all the bases. But essentially, if I had to guess, it would be something like this. That if enough men go MGTOW and exit the dating market, then the bubble will finally burst. Then women will be forced to reprice themselves at what MGTOW men would consider a reasonable rate, and then they can finally re-enter the dating market and find themselves a long-term partner.
That doesn't sound right, because I don't think MGTOW men are actually interested in women. If you look at all the MGTOW content out there, it's all about how deeply flawed women are and how you need to avoid relationships with them.
I think it goes a lot deeper than that. MGTOW men aren't interested in criticizing women for no reason. Everyone wants a partner. Women are great. Women are part of what makes life so wonderful. So I think that when MGTOW men are criticizing women, it's not the women themselves, but the current attitude of entitlement and hyperinflated sense of worth that we see in modern culture, especially here in the West.
Are you saying that these MGTOW men would be happy to enter into relationships with women if it was on more equal terms?
Yes, I do think that. I think that if they met a genuine woman who loved and respected them, made an equal financial contribution, and was a genuine lifetime companion, then they would happily enter into a relationship with them. I think they don't really believe that women like that exist, but perhaps one of the deep down hopes of the MGTOW movement is that it will encourage more women to be that way.
Fascinating. Well, I'd be interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Do you think that the biggest competition men face in the sexual marketplace is from other men trying to undercut them on price? Do you think the MGTOW movement is an attempt to unionize men and raise the market value of what men have to offer? Let us know in the comment section below.
That's right, and be sure to hit that like button and make sure you've subscribed to the channel. I know most people are just going to watch this video for free, but perhaps you're one of those special few individuals who really wants to support the creator. If that describes you, then check out the Patreon page. There's a link in the description box below.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.